Hey everyone, welcome back to Impossible Color. Today's video, I'm going to show you how to take a baby portrait and make it soft and warm. The first thing that you want to do is make sure you take your photo with as large an aperture as your lens will allow. Ideally, you'll have a portrait lens such as a 50mm, but even if you have a kit lens, you could definitely still benefit from this tutorial. So I'm going to go into the exposure settings first. And I'm going to add a little bit of exposure because we are a bit underexposed some of these darker areas in the picture. And we're going to add a little bit on the contrast. And for the highlights, we're going to bring those down quite a bit because we're getting washed out in some of these areas. So let's go way down to about 90. Now for these shadows, they're really blacked out, so we're going to crank that right up. Kind of the opposite of what we're doing with the highlights. And you can really see this shine starting to come out in the eyes. And for the whites, I'm going to bring those up as well. Let's go about 25 on that. Blacks, I'm going to leave where they're at. And for the clarity, if you went really extreme, you're going to get this kind of fake look. I'm sure you've seen these kind of photos around. So let's just go really subtle with this. For the softness, I may go up to 10 in the negative. And I want to bring the saturation down for this photo as well. I'm going to go down to -35. And it just gives more of a classic look, stripping some of the color away from there. Now the next thing that I want to do is do some further refinements to the tones and make sure that you're on point. And for the channel, we're going to start off by adjusting some tones overall with RGB. So this is all of the colors together. And on the left hand side, you want to raise that bar up. And then in the middle, you want to constrain it to the center. And basically what that's doing is it's decreasing the darkness. And you can see that there's not a lot of change happening in these midtones or the highlights. We're just bringing those blacks up quite a bit. Now if you move down to the blue tab, we're going to do a little bit of color adjustments on just the blue channel. So I'm going to increase this value up. So everything on the left here is left of center is representing your darks, and everything right of center is representing your lights. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking my darks and I'm adding more blue. If I was to bring the darks in the opposite direction, I'd be adding more yellow to the darks. But naturally your shadows are going to be a little cooler, so I'm going to go in this direction. And then on the highlight side, I'm going to make the picture a lot warmer. And I'm going to go to the extreme right. So this is all of the highlights, the really white areas in the image, and I'm going to bring those down so that they're really soft. You can see that they don't blow out to white anymore, and by lowering the we're kind of lowering the contrast a bit as we're doing that. We're warming it up and lowering the contrast, and it just gives a little softer image to look at. The next tab we'll be looking at is the Hue Saturation and Luminance. And we'll start on the left tab first with the hue. And on the red slider, I'm going to move it down to -20. And basically what that's doing is it's making my reds a little bit pinkier, which I think looks a lot better for an infant. And for the oranges, I'll just take that down 1. And the yellows, I'm going to go down quite a bit. Maybe somewhere around there. The greens I'm just going to take completely out of the picture. You can see we have a little bit down here, but it doesn't match up with much of anything else in the image. So it doesn't add a lot of value. And for the aquas, I'm going to go all the way over here. And basically what that's going to do is make the aquas a little bit more blue, so they tie in with some of these other elements of the image. And the blues I'm going to bring up slightly. Purples as well. So basically what we're doing here is we're just adjusting the warmth or the coolness of these individual colors. And the next tab, the saturation tab, we're going to be adjusting the purity of the color. So for the red, by adding 10, increasing the saturation of all the reds. And I'm going to take the greens and drop that down quite a bit. Aquas, just a little bit as well. And I'll bring the blues down. Purples and magentas look good to me. And under the next tab, the luminance, we're going to be adjusting the darkness and the lightness per color. I'm not going to be adjusting the red for this particular image. You can see what kind of craziness happens for those red spots on the face. So sometimes that's danger territory. Oranges as well can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but I'm going to bring them up slightly on this. Yellows I'm going to bring up 20. I'm just going to go extreme here to show you what's actually happening there. The greens I'll bring up to about, let's say 15. So I'm just kind of brightening this area up slightly. And that looks good for the luminance. And now I'm going to take a snapshot to see where we've come. You add a new snapshot. Basically, it's going to take a recording of all the settings that you made for this particular image. And I'm going to call this after. And I'm going to go back to the camera raw defaults, take another snapshot, and call this before. And now we can see our before and after. So you can see that we brought out all of these dark areas, we softened the light areas, we reduced the contrast, and we created a nice soft glow. No individual color is kind of taking over the image. It's more of a powdery look because we brought down all of our saturations. We went down with the global saturation slider, but then on each individual channel we brought them down. And we unified the whole image by going into the tone curve, and under the blue we warmed everything up, kind of united all of the image in the highlights, and then in the shadows we unified them with the blue. But overall it's the warm colors that are coming through and giving this that really soft look. And that's how you create soft and warm baby portraits. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you want to support more free videos, please click the little green subscribe button below. You can also give me a thumbs up and share with your friends if you think this is useful. If you have a chance, let me know what your favorite playlist is in the comment section below. I want to know what kind of videos you're most excited about so I know what to do in the future. See you next week.